to support the platform just in case anything like this happens again, you can do it by way of PayPal, Patreon, Cash App, and also by the Anchor. And you can also further support the platform by way of going to the Teespring store or the shoe store that is located in the comment section below.
I got the big microphone. Look, I'm not going to interrupt your fun. I just want to remind you that you believe it's my body and my choice. I need your vote. You gotta show up. This is our time. This is our choice. And this is our year. I need your big energy. Let's get it done.
All of a sudden, we were given this free thing from the Society of America, abortion. 78% of your free abortion clinics were placed in black and urban areas for the purpose of something free of charge from a racist society. As to put it in words of one pro-abortionist, we don't need so many Negroes anymore. There's no more cotton to pick. These feelings about black people, this was one way of doing it as a social benefit, if you will. We're here to help you. Black women, and let it be stated, black women never demonstrated, demanded, or even requested the right to an abortion. We've been asking for the right to decent housing, the right to education, in fact, the right to health care. And all we've been given, free of charge, is the right to kill our unborn child.
Last year, 25 House Republicans campaigned to have a bust of a pioneering family planner removed from the Smithsonian's National Portrait Gallery, where it has been included in an exhibition featuring American civil rights leaders called The Struggle for Justice, with Ted Cruz's office issuing a press release explaining that she didn't belong there for a number of reasons, the most damning of which is part of her inhumane life work. She advocated for the extermination of African Americans. The controversy stems from a 1939 letter in which Sanger outlined her plan to reach out to black leaders, specifically ministers, to help dispel community suspicions about a family planning clinics she was opening in the South. Quote, "We do not want word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. And the minister is the man who can straighten out the idea if it ever occurs to any of their more rebellious members." In 1966, Martin Luther King Jr. made clear that he agreed with Sanger's life work with anything but inhumane. In 1966, when King received Planned Parenthood's Margaret Sanger Award in Human Rights, he praised her contributions to the black community. Quote, "There is a striking kinship between our movement and Margaret Sanger's earlier efforts. Margaret Sanger had to commit what was then called a crime in order to enrich humanity, and today we honor her courage and vision." That's not to say that Sanger didn't also make some deeply disturbing statements in support of eugenics, a now discredited movement to improve the overall health and fitness of humankind through selective breeding. She did, and very publicly. In a 1921 article, she wrote that, quote, "The most urgent problem today is how to limit and discourage the over-fertility of the mentally and physically defective." Singer's stated mission was to empower women to make their own reproductive choices. She did focus her efforts on minority communities because that was where, due to poverty and limited access to health care, women were especially vulnerable to the effects of unplanned pregnancy. As she framed it, birth control was the fundamental women's rights issue. "Enforced motherhood," she wrote in 1914, "is the most complete denial of a woman's right to life and liberty." As Gloria Steinem pointed out in a 1998 essay for The Times, Sanger's embrace of the eugenics rhetoric may have been less a heartfelt belief than a political ploy to broaden birth control's appeal. but even speaking the language of eugenics could be insidious. And wrote, quote, Sanger adopted the mainstream eugenics language of the day, partly as a tactic, since many eugenicists oppose birth control on the grounds that the educated will use it more. Though her own work was directed towards voluntary birth control and public health programs, her use of eugenics language probably helped justify sterilization abuse. Her misjudgments should cause us to wonder what parallel errors we are making now and to question any tactics that fail to embody the end we hope to achieve. In a 1939 letter to Dr. C.J. Gamble, Sanger urged him to get over his reluctance to hire a full time Negro physician, as the colored Negroes can get closer to their own members and more or less lay their cards on the table, which means their ignorance, superstitions, and doubt. And that spirit of racism continues today, as more than 300 former and current employees of Planned Parenthood stated recently in an open letter noting a toxic work environment. Quote, Planned Parenthood was founded by a racist white woman. That is part of history that cannot be changed. They observed, writing that the pattern of systemic racism, pay inequity, and lack of upper mobility for black staff continues. The vast majority of abortion vendors have set up shop in minority neighborhoods, which can be seen in the scarce statistics available at the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Though they are only 13% of the female population, African Americans make up 38% of all abortions tracked in 2016. In the 1970s, when the Supreme Court's Roe v. Wade decision legalized abortion, polling showed that blacks were significantly less likely to favor abortions than whites. Yet in New York City, more black babies are aborted than born alive each year. And the abortion industry think tank, the Guttermacher Institute, notes that the abortion rates for black women is almost 5 times that for white women. In an article titled A Better Race Through Birth Control, Sanger wrote, quote, Given birth control, the unfit will voluntarily eliminate their kind. Birth control does not mean contraception indiscriminately practiced. It means the release and cultivation of the better elements in our society. As I told people before, it's going to come to a certain point in time on certain topics. I'm not going to really debate. I'm not going to really just, talk on what I think and different things of that nature. I'm just going to show the information that is directly there so that if anybody would be foolish to attempt to start or cause an argument, they'll be debating directly with the stats, the numbers, and the information that is listed directly in the video. The main point that I'm bringing up is this: it's pretty ridiculous that you have these government officials deciding that their last ditch effort is to call on the popular crowd in order to really get the votes, because that's in a sense what they're doing. This is a last ditch effort in order to really corral in the black voters who are undecided or who feel that they are not going to vote by way of being in proximity to a celebrity of which they love. So if they're in proximity with that celebrity and they love that celebrity, and if that celebrity just so happens to bring out this political official, that means that the people who love the celebrity are then going to also love the political official as well, and not even really do any type of research or anything like that. Why? Because the celebrity is a trusted source and they trust that celebrity. So in a sense, it's the blind leading the blind. And that's exactly what you have directly at this concert. More than likely, none of these people are going to do any type of research to find out what specifically would they be voting for. What specifically has this person done for black people? What are the plans that they have in place in order for black people to succeed and to make it the next 4 years or 8 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever it is? What plans do they have laid out that are going to work for Black people? None of them are going to ask those questions. None of them are going to do their research and try to check out as much information that is presented in order to make a very well thought out choice. But as I've stated before, because this is not my first time or my second time talking about or bringing up Margaret Sanger, who is the mother of Planned Parenthood. The main thing I just have to say is that, this is who a lot of Black women just so happen to follow, whether they like it or not, whether they know it or not. And, this is also what happens when a lot of people don't happen to do their research on certain things that they decide to prescribe to. This is what that looks like. So at the end of the day, no matter how many of the Black women out there want to say that we as Black men benefit from white supremacy and all these other types of things, you have a lot of Black women out here who are literally doing the work of Margaret Sanger still to this day.